What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 16, episode 6. Girl, and let me just say this, choices. Choices, okay? Shouts out to Tatiana. That's for all my drag race lovers. Choices. That's all I can. People are making choices that don't make sense to me. And it feels like the elevator's not going all the way to the top. But let's get into this video. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I just got a few things I want to talk to y'all about. So first up, check out one of my standalone spicy corners. I'll put the thumbnail on the screen. It was all things Housewives. The video turned out to be an hour long, which isn't something new, but I didn't think it was going to be that long. But y'all know sometimes I be reading. But I talked about Kelly's interview that she did with Page Six, Britt Edie's interview that she did with the Housewives Nightcap. I talked about Portia's YouTube channel. We talked about Kenya getting a YouTube channel, as well as the back and forth between Kenya and Portia about the things that Portia said in her YouTube channel, as well as the back and forth between Britt Edie and Ming Lee. So if you want to know my thoughts about that information, please check out that video. I'll put the link in the description box below and go over there and share your thoughts. Make sure you like the video. So next, let's talk about Kelly. So Kelly was on that channel called Cocoa Butter. I like it. It's basically, if you were someone who grew up with like BuzzFeed, this is just the black version of it. And the content is a lot better if you ask me. But it's called Cocoa Butter, and they pretty much gave Angela pictures of all of her castmates and asked her questions. And she was supposed to lift up a picture as the answer and then give her thoughts on why she selected the castmate for that picture. So let me play the clip for you guys.
Yes, baby. The oak tree herself. You know, she fooled me. She really did. She fooled me, but Angela is shady. She is shade just like underneath the oak tree. I'm telling you, she will shock you. She's like a silent shader. Like, you'll be like, she said that? She'll get you straight together, honey. Girl, did we really have to like bring this up? Hey, Drew, she's just something else. I don't even know if she knows that she's lying. I think that she is such an amazing actress that she's just always in character. The girl could probably win the Emmy, the Oscar, and the Grammy, or whatever, something. She can sing. Her album is amazing. Shout out to Drew. Her album is great. She lying on there too. Drew, I'm hoping you get an EGOT, girl. I mean, you know, some are used to cameras, some aren't. And I think, you know, you get a little camera happy. The best comebacks? I don't know, because you know me and her play ping pong all season. We go back and forth. She come back, but I'll take it right back to her. So she met her match. If I had to pick a menu item, I'm gonna give my peach cobbler to Shamia, because I think that she is like the true definition of what a peach holder should be, besides myself. But I think she gives Housewife this season. Like, she's definitely bringing the peaches back.
So I thought this was a super cute interview. Like, I like the vibe that Kelly gives. Kelly, out of all of the newbies, is really growing on me episode to episode, and I hope it continues. I told y'all I don't stand none of the newbies, okay? But I like her personality thus far. So I will say this. I do believe her about Angela being the shadiest and surprising her, because we all thought Angela was boring, but Angela has shown when she want to get into it with somebody, she not afraid. Angela not afraid to argue with the girls and stand in it. And I respect that, okay? She said, girl, I'm an earth sign and I'm like a rock, okay? We know Drew be lying. She said Britt do the most for the cameras, and I believe her because the display that she showed in her back and forth with Angela, girl, you were at like a level 80, and the situation only called for like level 20 energy. You do too much. She said Portia had the best comebacks, which I don't agree with, but I feel like they're trying to make Portia um and Kelly's relationship similar to like Giselle and Karen, where they're frenemies, but they have good banter. And so far, we kind of have seen Kelly let Portia know, girl, I'm gonna be on your neck, and I'm not opposed to that. Okay, and then she said she would give her peach cobbler to Shamia because she said Shamia is bringing the peaches back. I don't know about that. I definitely think Shamia should be a housewife, but the jury's still out on her. Okay, when it comes to my like solidified opinion on her, I still think she's corny, but just because you're corny doesn't mean that you can't be a great housewife. So next, let's talk about Nene. So Nene shaded Kenya by reposting this clip of Kenya where Kenya was shading Nene about being phased out by production during season 12. And she captioned the video in her Insta story saying the message is loud and clear. Or no, I think she said the message is very clear. So let me play that clip for y'all.
The network is sending you a message. You're not as important as you think you are. The message is very clear. Either the network feels that you're still a valuable asset on the show, or they don't, and you're replaced or phased out, and you just have to move on.
So I wasn't mad at this. I actually giggled. When I tell you I was a hardcore Nene fan, still love her down, okay? But she crazy at times. And sometimes she be doing something. I said, girl, that don't make no sense, okay? But still love her down. And I don't even think she posted that with any malice or anything towards Kenya. I think it was just her making a point. Like, girl, when I was down bad with the network, you was telling me they phasing me out. Girl, you down bad even worse than me. And they look like they phasing you out too. So I can't even be mad at Nene for reposting it. It's like, girl, you shaded me when I was going through it, so I'm going to shade you. So, the last thing we're going to talk about is Britt Eady being on Watch What Happens Live on Sunday night. You could definitely tell that the HR department and the legal team are the ones that created Andy's questions, because the whole entire episode was about that, except one time when she was asked to play this game. And normally the girls play more games than what Britt did. She had one game. Every other thing was about what happened between her and Kenya. So I said, ooh, girl, they trying to cover their tracks, as well as trying to make sure if you try to sue them, if they let you go, they're going to be like, but no, girl, this is what you said on Watch What Happens Live. I honestly believe if Kenya didn't do what she did, Britt would have been a one season wonder, because her performance on Watch What Happens Live was so lackluster and boring. And she honestly didn't make herself look any better. She actually made herself look worse, in my opinion, because she continued to lie about the situation between her and Kenya, and people pulled up evidence about that. And she legit didn't really take any accountability for the part that she played in it. You could tell that she was saying the right things, but genuinely, that's not how that lady feel. Her husband was there. I don't know if that man is a CPR dummy or a mannequin, but they had him behind the bar. He didn't say nothing. And I was like, well, why is he behind the bar if he doesn't have a personality? Tell him to go sit down in the audience, okay? It's not, Kenya, this is your fault. This is your fault. We're going to have to deal with her, because I truly believe they're going to keep her on for at least one more season so Bravo can cover themselves completely. So the first clip I'm going to play for you guys is Andy asking Britt, so what happened between you and Kenya? Like, was there more to this situation? Because I don't understand.
People don't understand, and I don't either. Why did you initially come after Kenya so hard? Like at the bank dinner, why were you so agitated with her?
You know, I think people don't realize, or even like the ladies in our friend group, she had something against me since day one. So even with the ring comment, I felt like...
But it couldn't have just been the ring comment.
I don't think it was just the ring comment, honestly.
Okay.
I think there's something that was brewing, that there was a reason why she didn't like me. I felt like she was holding on to...
But did she say anything else or do anything?
You know what? She didn't say anything, but the fact that she was just so welcoming and so nice to ladies she's never met. And for me, I never met Kenya.
Okay.
So I was like, why me?
When I tell you this lady is unwell, because I'm like, how do you say that out of your mouth, that Kenya had it out for me since day one. She doesn't even know you to have it out for you. And even if you want to talk about the alleged tea that's out there where they, Jessie Woo and Fucky Dineva let it be known on their latest reviews. And I talked about this in the spicy corner as well, how they stated that supposedly Ming Lee and Britt got beef because they both dated Rick Ross, and Kenya wanted Ming to be on the show because we do know Ming was auditioning for the show. We never saw Kenya do anything. And I keep going back to what I said. If Kenya was outright being a complete a-hole to this lady, they would have showed it so they could justify why they got rid of her. They would have added that to the situation to give it more context. But Britt, nothing happened. This was all something in your head. And then for Andy to ask you, like, did she say anything to you? And you say she never said anything to me. Girl, you are unwell. Like, don't get me wrong. I've definitely been in places where I can tell people don't want me there or they don't like me. But I've never gone out my way to like argue with these people or concoct in my mind that they got like some unnecessary beef with me. Like, if you don't like me, you don't like me, and I keep it pushing. You should have did that, but you didn't. You are unwell. So the next clip I'm going to play for you guys is Britt basically being asked if she had a weapon on her while she was at the vault when she was arguing with Kenya.
Did you have a gun that night?
Oh my God. I never had a gun. Ever.
Never had a gun?
I never had a gun in my possession at all.
Okay, so your comments at the dinner, that resulted in an investigation. Obviously, weapons are not allowed on set. It was determined that you didn't violate that policy. So now watching it back, why did you say it and what do you think about it now?
You know what? I still beat myself up. Just the fact that I allowed her to trigger me. So it's just, there's no excuse for what I did, for what I said. And it was the heat of the moment. I'm in a rough neighborhood. I'm always used to having my husband by my side. And I felt attacked. And I was triggered by Kenya. And I was talking with Kelly on the side, like, you know how girls hype each other up or whatever. Yeah. And it was a side convo. I was talking with Kelly and I mentioned a pistol, which I never should have. And I was wrong.
It's the fact that Britt is still lying about this situation. Like, this whole entire altercation happened almost a year ago, and she still can't just be honest about the situation. The fact that she only referenced the one time she brought up having that tool on her. Look, I'm from the South. We call it the tool, so I'm gonna call it the tool just in case, because I want this video to be monetized, okay? But the fact that she's only referencing that she had that tool on her one time is crazy to me. When, girl, you said it twice. The first time you said you had that thing on you, it was in the lobby area, like she referenced talking to Andy. And I let her have it because it definitely sounded like she was saying that in self-defense, because her and Kelly were real uncomfortable being in Bankhead. So Kelly was like, oh, I got Kenny with me because they were supposed to be waiting for Britt's husband, Mike. And that's when Britt said, oh no, I got that thing on me. We cool. I got that tool. I'm good. It's not until they got outside in that parking lot and that lady was screaming like a banshee in heat at Kenya, talking about, I got whips and tools on me. You don't want it with me. You gonna learn today. You gonna learn to be respectful. Don't call me no peasant. That is what they're talking about, Britt. That is what they're talking about. And the fact that you're lying about not having anything on you, like the internet doesn't forget. I don't know what's up with this lady. Because you're saying you didn't have anything on you and you never have weapons on you, only for the internet to find a clip of you being on some podcast called, I think, Rich and Unemployed or something like that, where you mention that you always are strapped. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Every time. And I keep my pistol with me always.
Security that's at the gas.
So they said this podcast was done like 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, you talked about having that thing on you all the time, but you talking about you've never been in possession of having a weapon and you've never threatened anybody, but that's a lie. That's such a blatant lie, lady. Are you serious? So the next clip I'm going to play for you guys is Britt's final thoughts about this situation.
Willing to make amends with Kenya, but anything else you want to say with regard to everything that went down?
At the end of the day, I was targeted, is how I feel with Kenya. And she wanted to trigger me. She wanted me to do something nasty. She wanted me to react. And because I left before all of that happened, she didn't get the reaction she wanted, and she planned her own funeral.
Okay.
When I tell you, again, this lady is unwell, because how did Kenya target you? You the one that targeted her, because you admit that you had preconceived notions about this lady and you don't even know her. You sound crazy. I think the only thing that I can give her is that she is right about Kenya planning her own funeral. You did it to yourself. You did a stunt that backfired on you tremendously. And now you are going to have to rebuild your reputation because of this huge, huge and egregious mistake that a lot of people see it as. That's your fault, Kenya. And even if you were victimized by this girl, you're going to have to figure out a way to get this mark, or, wipe off this mark year after year after year, because people are going to constantly bring this up against you now. So you really are going to have to walk a fine line. But she crazy. But shouts out to Claudia Jordan. She not my favorite person, but she has a valid point. She says she felt triggered and attacked because the hug Kenya gave her wasn't good enough. Girl, bye. And that's the fact. That is a complete and utter fact. You are upset because that lady did not hug or embrace you the way that you wanted to be embraced by her. Again, she is unwell. So the last thing we're going to talk about as it pertains to Watch What Happens Live with Britt is she played this game where Andy basically said, give a compliment to all of the women or to each person that I name. So the first person was Portia. Why did this lady say she loves the fact that Portia stands in her truth? Okay, just two liars in cahoot. She then got to Drew and she said Drew's a good actress. Then she got to Angela and she really didn't know what to say. She was like, which I thought was interesting because when Angela was on Watch What Happens Live, she had something really nice to say about Britt. So I guess they not cool no more. But she said, Angela loves Charles. Then the next person was Shamia, and she said Shamia's a good liar, which I said, oh, what did Shamia lie about? Maybe it's about this situation that Shamia has been saying happened between her and Britt about her child. Who knows, but we'll see here soon. And then the last person was Kelly, and she said Kelly is a good mother. So let's get into this review because that's all I got for this spicy corner. All right, y'all, so let's talk about it. So like I said in the intro, choices are being made where I'm like, the critical thinking caps stay not on, okay? Turn them on. Shouts out to Cleopatra. That's all. Turn them on. I love it. That's one of my favorite TikToks, bro. But they not on. And then some decisions and choices I think people are making, I'm like, okay, I see how you came to that conclusion. You making the right step or the right choice. So pretty much, we open up, and I thought it was very telling that they chose to open up the episode with Shamia's thoughts about what happened at Kenya's event. It's definitely given that production wants Shamia to take the role of the anchor. And I mean, on paper, it makes sense. She's married to a wealthy man. It's legal money. Okay, we don't see her going to jail anytime soon. She has two beautiful children, one that has special needs. So that is an interesting personal story that some people who are dealing with that can relate to. On top of that, she's trying to get her music career off the ground, which she's been trying to do for years. And she's also been living in Atlanta since she was a child. So she's connected to all these like high profile people in Atlanta. So it makes sense why Shamia would be the anchor. Whereas when you look at Portia, it's like Portia ain't got nothing going on. Honestly, I've seen so many people online reference her as a friend of, and I'm like, she is really giving friend of energy. And to be honest, if Portia was a friend of and she was just giving us what she was giving, I would say she was a good friend of to the show. Like, it's like, okay, you have a lot going on if you're just a friend to the show, but her being a full-time housewife and giving us what she's giving us, it's not doing it for us. It's just not, or I know it's not doing it for me. And it just shows that she ain't really got nothing going on other than Simon and Drew and Dennis. And honestly, I'm tired of hearing about Simon because I heard about it all last summer, and I don't really care about this Drew and Dennis situation because I think all of y'all is in cahoots, okay? So we open up with Shamia. Shamia basically said, girl, I ain't never witnessed something so low. Okay, I ain't never witnessed something so low and low down. They then show us Kenya, when she first pulled out the first poster board where it was like, who is this hoe? And you see everybody is gagged like, girl, where is this going? And I do believe what Portia said, because we do see Portia in her confessional saying that she was triggered and she was disgusted by it. Honestly, I forgot about the whole thing with Bolo, but I was like, girl, you was the one having sex on company time with cameras everywhere. That was your fault, not Kenya's. But I could get where she got uncomfortable, but I don't normally believe what Portia says, but I do believe this, because when they flash back to when Kenya pulled out the other poster board, Portia had like that 100-yard stare. Like she kind of like zoned out, and then she immediately was like, oh, I got to get up out of here. So I do believe she truly was triggered. You see Kenya's friend, I think it's like Akila, whatever. We saw her last season, the tall, light-skinned lady. She was giggling. So I'm like, did you know she was about to do that? And if you did, you're a shitty friend, because I would have told my friend, girl, you doing too much. Let's not, because I would have gave my friend like, girl, don't do this, especially not here. But then as the posters continue, you then see the girl go, like, so maybe she didn't know. Maybe she didn't know everything. Maybe she knew of the tea, but didn't think Kenya was going to do this. You then see Kelly in her confessional being like, I can only imagine what else was on those posters boards and how Britt would feel, because remember, Kelly left right after she did the whole, like, who is this hoe with the plastic surgery? Kelly was like, yeah, I'm out of here, bro. And she, she hit the gas and walked up out of there. So you then see Cynthia saying, I hold my friend to a higher standard, and I didn't think Kenya could do something like this. Like, this not my friend like that. And they show us Angela, when Angela was like, gagged, okay? Gagged. The audience gagged. And we then see when Cynthia told Kenya, you're better than this, and girl, this wasn't the way. And honestly, you could tell that Cynthia is a good friend. I know a lot of people are frustrated with Cynthia being out on the press tour and like basically going against Kenya, but what she's saying is true. And you do need friends that are going to tell you like, girl, you wrong. Like, I love you and I still want to be friends with you, but you wrong. And in this moment, Kenya was wrong. Like, honestly, like I said, this was a decision or a choice the thinking cap wasn't on. If Kenya would have did this without the media, without other people who are not a part of the production team, she probably wouldn't have gotten so much blowback. Honestly, she should have invited all the girls to like a restaurant, had the poster board staring, like, staged all throughout the, a little private room with them. And then as, her and Britt got into it, or as she was checking Britt, get up, pull, the covers and showing what was on the poster board. But she should have stopped at the insurance fraud hoe part. Like, showing illicit images of the lady slobbing on the knob like corn on the cob. That's where you lost a lot of people. Those pictures should have just been something you say for a rainy day if the girl wanted to get stupid, and you be like, girl, I know who you are. I've seen the photos. I've seen the pictures. You really want to keep testing me? Because I know who you are. Like, it was never for you to like use against her in this manner, Kenya. And it's like, for you to do this at your salon is where it really doesn't make sense to me. It was very much a choice that you did not think about. I feel as though if Kenya needed to drink as much as she did at the salon before she pulled her stunt, she should have known that was her body telling her, girl, we can't do this. Because I ain't never seen Kenya down alcohol the way she was at that salon. She was throwing shots back left and right. And I was like, girl, if you got to do all of this to do a stunt, then maybe we shouldn't pull the stunt. Okay? Just maybe. So the screen goes black, and it's 48 hours since what happened at Kenya's salon. We pull up to Britt's house. She in distress, okay? She on the couch sniffling and crying. Her voice is so grating, and her crying made it worse. And I thought by this episode I would be used to it, but I'm not. I cannot stand the way that lady sounds. I tried to think about somebody else that like I wasn't used to their voice, and I think the only person I could think of was Miss Chalet. Her voice used to irritate me, and then after I watched R&B Divas with my sister a couple of times, I got used to it, but I have not gotten used to her voice yet. I want her to blow her nose. Like, she was sniffling, and I was like, girl, blow your nose. I really do hope Britt takes this Bravo check, goes to a certified surgeon, and have them open up her nose and fix her septum, because I don't know how you walking around sounding like that on a daily basis and you don't think you got a problem. Like, that's not an issue. I don't get it. So she's crying on the couch. Her husband is a horrible job. He's doing a horrible job consoling her. And I know I've seen some people say that he don't like her. And at first I was like, nah, we don't know that. But honestly, it is given either he doesn't not know how to console people, or he really can't be bothered with her to a certain extent. Because the way he just rubbed her on her hand when she started to really cry, and in that awkward hug, I said, sir, okay. So she's just like, she tried to humiliate me after I gave her $250 worth of flowers. That bouquet was not worth $250. It was not. I've given flowers bigger than that, and they weren't even worth, like, arrangements like that, and they weren't even worth $250. And I said, girl, you lying. She be lying, okay? And so Britt is just like, I just can't believe she would do something like this. I'm in jeopardy of losing my license. And I was like, why would you lose your license because of this situation? Like, they wouldn't just take your license when you're supposed to be perceived at this time as the victim of what transpired. Like, why would they take your license away? That didn't make sense. She goes on to say how, like, everybody's been reaching out to her, like her family, her friends, clients, and business partners. I get the business partners, friends, and family because, like, they've known you. But why would your clients need to reach out to you? As long as my insurance policy is okay, I don't care what you got going on in your life. As long as my stuff is insured, I'm fine. So she's in tears. And he's just like, yeah, it's messed up that she pulled that stunt at her own salon, and it ain't the salon supposed to be dedicated to her daughter. And I said, he got a point, okay? So she starts crying, talking about, I've made mistakes. I got everything wiped away off the internet, like, and the fact that Kenya went this far to dig up stuff on me. And I'm like, so you're admitting that there is stuff about you online? Because that's the thing. I think people don't understand, like, just because you got it cleaned off the internet, that doesn't mean someone didn't already screenshot it and download it for evidence against you. That's why my dad has always said, once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. And he would know because he work in IT. He was like, it ain't but so much things you can get wiped from anything off the internet. So that lets me know that Kenya, more than likely, or whoever Kenya got to get it, they dug it up on the internet. So then she admits that, she made some mistakes, and this is a constant reminder of her mistakes. She said that, Kenya tried to publicly shame her. And I said, yeah, because you publicly shamed her first. You were screaming in that parking lot, like I said, like a banshee in heat. And you threatened that lady. And you didn't think she was going to come back to you. That's the part that's so weird about this situation. And she ends up admitting that she used to be a cam girl and that she did film a video with her boyfriend when she was a teenager giving fellatio. And I feel like that's also very calculated, the way she keeps saying teenager, because teenager could mean somebody that's, teen, like between the ages of like 13 and like, 17 years old, or it can mean like an adult, 18 to 19. So I'm like, you're playing with that word, but I also feel like if that really is what they said those videos and pictures were of her at Kenya's place, she would have said that back in June, and I do not believe Bravo would have aired it, because that would have got them in even, like, they would have been in trouble airing something like that. So I feel like we're playing semantics now with words, because you want to make this worse than what it was, when it's like you already don't need to do all of that. You don't need to do all of that. So she's crying. Next thing you know, you hear a knock at the door, and it's Kelly. Kelly ends up bringing food and like an IV lady to come and help them with their fluids. I thought that was very nice. Kelly even says, I want people to be friends to me the way that I'm being friends to them. Like, I want people to show up for me in that way. So I thought this was a nice gesture from Kelly. We see the lady come with the IVs. She's writing things down. Kelly ends up saying, while she's sitting on the couch with Britt, being like, she's so taken aback by Kenya, because she was like, the conversation that her and Kenya had, she was a totally different person. Like, she was just like, I couldn't believe she did that. And so then Britt ends up saying, like, I just hope that I never, when I grow up and get older, I've never turned out to be as mean as Kenya. So then Britt ends up saying she wanted me to be there. She wanted me to react to that so I could attack her and give her the satisfaction that she wanted. Like, she did all of that, and she's been targeting me ever since. I said, you are psychotic, because that lady has not been targeting you. This is how you know Britt is one of those pretty insecure girls where she thinks everybody is attacking her because she's pretty, when it's like, no, girl, your personality is the pits. And it's like you don't have anything to counteract it. You're not funny, you're not charming, you're not talented. So it's like sometimes women can get away with being bitches when they are charming, when they are talented, when they are charismatic, but you don't have any of that. Any of that. You just a pretty face with a stank attitude. Who wants to be around that? Girl. And so Kelly exaggerates when Kenya ends up telling her, stay out of it. Cause she was like, Kenya said, stay out of it. I said, no, Kenya said, girl, stay out of it. And you was mute. It was the Beyonce challenge. Look around, everybody on mute. You didn't say nothing. So pretty much, they laugh about it. And then Britt basically says, I'm not going to allow her to take away my week or whatever. And my whole thing is just in this scene, Kelly wasn't being a good friend. I mean, I thought what she did was nice, bringing the food, bringing the IV lady, but not telling your friend that, girl, this wouldn't have went this way if you wouldn't have attacked that lady first. I don't think is being a good friend, because you're upholding this lady in her like wackadoo psychoticness, So the next thing we have is Shamia, Drew, Portia, Angela, and Kelly meeting up at her house. Shamia basically wants to like check the temperature of the group. She doesn't invite Britt. We don't see Cynthia, and I think around this time is when they realized Kenya was being suspended or possibly let go from the show. So she has her private chef there. You could tell her mama was itching to be on camera this time, because the first time we met her, she just had on a tracksuit, but this time the lady got on her good wig and her good makeup, a good beat, and her good clothes. So the ladies are coming over. We see Shamia has a new confessional. I really like this one compared to the orange one. This one looks really better, like way better on Shamia. I like the lilac. I just wish when they did the zoom out, the full body pose, that somebody would have flared out her dress, because it was like bunched up at the end. But she basically was just like, yeah, she just wants to make sure everybody is okay and wants to see where the girls are at, and as well as like she is just totally like still flabbergasted by what happened down at Kenya's salon. So we see Kelly get there first, then Portia, and then we see Angela. Angela ends up saying that she is not perimenopausal, despite what the bird brains think. Girl, you are always hot. Always. And I know online they say Angela was 43, but maybe Angela is like a smooth 48, 40, 47. Because I'm like, ma'am, I know it's hot in Atlanta, but you are always like walking around like it's a heat wave. You know what I'm saying? But she looks nice in this confessional. I like this more than the black confessional she has, because I feel like I like her hair more. Maybe if she had this hair, yeah, maybe if she had this hair onto that black confessional, I would like that one more. But it's something about that wavy hair that just not doing it for me. But I think she looks really cute. Plus, I love a good high pony with tendrils. Is like, I think that's cute. Okay, so we then see the girls sit down. Shamia's mom sits down with them, and they start talking about what happened. And basically, what it boils down to is the girls still like Kenya, but everyone is just like, girl, we can't save you from this. Like, you took it off the deep end. Shamia was just like, it was such a beautiful day. And Kelly seconds that. She was like, yeah, she was just like, I don't understand why she would do this at her salon, a place that's supposed to be healing and a nice place to go for the ladies. And then you do something like this, and they not wrong. Kelly basically says she don't know if she could forgive Kenya for if she was the one that this was done to. She then asked Portia, what about you? And Portia basically said, girl, this ain't got nothing to do with me. And she was like, me and Kenya would be done. Basically, she would have put paws on Kenya. She would have put hands on that lady, drug her across that linoleum and everything. Okay, that flow would have been Kenya to the flow. And so that's when Portia says it was Kenya's choice to twirl on down to hell, and Kelly was like, I don't think she ever came back up. And I was just like, hey, it is what it is. I giggled at that. So Kelly basically says, I like Kenya. I want the best for her. But honestly, I don't think I could forgive her because it was too calculated, too premeditated. It wasn't like Kenya was drunk. She did what she did. And that's basically it. So then Shamia's mom tries to give like some speech about the girls coming together and being a sisterhood. But I'm just kind of like, your daughter is on a show where there was a cast member that's coming back that says she was with Candy and Todd, a married couple. Like, I don't know what type of vibes you thought your child was going to be a part of. So I'm just kind of like, I get what you're saying, ma'am, but this wasn't needed in my opinion. So after the mom gives the speech, Angela basically says that she wants to understand why Portia did what she did, bringing up Charles's name at the vault, because it did bother her. And Portia was like, well, I didn't know you were going to get that mad. Like, I just did it as a joke. Girl, that wasn't a joke. Portia said on her YouTube channel that Angela was actually a lot madder than what we saw on the show, and I wish they would have showed that. But I'm just like, Portia, in what way was that a joke? Even if Charles ain't been in the streets or not, if you're saying that you know something about somebody's significant other and they asked you like, hey, what do you know? And then you're like, I'm not gonna tell you, that's gonna piss anybody off. So I don't know what type of sense of humor you got. So she ends up apologizing to Angela because she was like, no, I was just joking. And she was like, she don't know my personality. I don't know about that. I think Portia does know something about Charles, and she's waiting until Angela does something to piss her off to throw it in her face. Because later on, Portia admits that she has like a cousin or some family friend that got dangly glasses that puts them on and activates and starts searching on the internet. And she basically says that, like, once you get on these shows, everybody goes to digging. And she's not wrong. Like, people do get to digging when you get on these shows. So they move outside to eat their food after, the chef is done cooking it. Drew finally pulls up. I wish we would have heard the conversation that she was having with the Uber driver, because she said something to the effect of like, oh, I need to make sure I get you the next time. You're very like cool and calming. Like, and this whole entire situation is chaotic. So I wonder what they were talking about while she was riding to Shamia's house. I wish we could have heard it. So Drew comes in. Mind you, Drew has been late like 3 times. Has she been late 3 times? No, at least twice. She's been late at least twice. Like, she was late to Kelly's event. She was late to this event. Was she late to the vault event? I don't think so. I think Shamia was the last person to get there. So Drew sits down, and Angela immediately is like, Drew, so what's going on with you? And Drew basically admits that her living with Ralph is kind of weird, because she was like, we're getting this divorce, but it still feels like we're still a family. And that's been pretty challenging from her. Then Angela pivots and asks Portia, so what's up with your divorce? And so Portia basically says, at one point she thought that her and Simon could get a divorce and still be cool, but she's realizing that's not. And then Angela basically says to Portia, do you think if Simon were to call you, you would immediately get back together, saying like, hey, let's drop everything and get back together? And she was like, no. Like, once you disrespect my mom and then you kind of discard my child, I'm done. And so I remember this story on the blogs where Simon basically tried to implicate Miss Diane and her boyfriend in like basically robbing his house, calling them like a gunman and everything. And so she's just like, yeah, like she was like, that was totally out of line and disrespectful. And then she starts talking about her daughter, where basically she admits that Pilar was asking for Simon, and she was like, well, Mom, where's Simon? But she said Pilar would call Simon Papa. And I said, girl, what? I said, okay. And she basically said that she texted Simon saying that Pilar is asking about you. Like, would you mind speaking to her? He had his receipts on. He read it and he paid it dust. And so she's like, I couldn't even breathe when I saw that. And she was just like, it's the kids. It's the kids. So then you end up seeing Shamia go hug Portia, and then Kelly go and console Portia. And Drew says in her confessional that she wished she could be there with Portia or be there for Portia, because she was like, honestly, I know how she's feeling because I'm going through the same thing. And I was like, girl, it's not the same thing. You and Ralph were married for how many years? Emphasis on years. Portia and Simon didn't even make it to 2 years, and to be honest, they didn't even date for that long. I was like, Portia, do you honestly think that man was gonna give 2 like shadiggities, as my daddy would say, about Pilar when he didn't even really have a connection with her? You didn't even know that man, and you thought he was going to care enough about your child? It's still wild to me that she had that man around her daughter, and her mom was okay with it, and Lauren and them. But honestly, what it boiled down to is she was greedy. You saw $80 million, but you didn't vet it, and now you sitting here with egg up on your face. So she crying about it. She ends up saying that she basically feels like the man that she thought she was getting sold her a dream, and then she realized that things about him weren't true. Basically, she thought he had $80 million, but found out he was a scammer and a fraud. Pretty much. That's pretty much what she was saying. So then Kelly ends up asking Portia and Drew, do y'all think y'all could be cool? And Drew is like, I'm fine. And Portia was like, I can be cordial. I can be cordial. And then she says in her confessional, and I like this dress on her, this new confessional. I think this one and the red one is way better. And the one where her hair's in an updo is way better than the one where she got the uniboob. Like, this one is cute. She ends up saying that she no longer wants to really go back and forth with Drew, where every time I see her, it's up and it's stuck. She basically is just like, I'm going to just be the bigger person. As you should, because it's not that deep. Then we got Drew lying about being Michael Jordan's cousin. I mean, is she lying? I don't know. You can't believe much of what Drew says. But I feel like if she was Michael Jordan's cousin, I feel like she would have said that before. Like, do you know Marcus? You been to MJ's house? Like, what's going on with that? I don't know. So the next scene we get is with Kelly and her daughter, Chloe, who's 17. They're on the top of their house doing yoga. Chloe is not really into it. She doing the and Kelly is like, you know you don't have to do that. And Chloe's like, oh, okay. So then they sit down. While they're sitting down, Kelly gets a text from her publicist. We saw him, Lamont, where it's an article about Mark, who is Kelly's ex-husband, basically who just got out of jail for not paying child support, saying that, his only focus is to get his daughters back. And it's emphasis on his 3 biological children, not Chloe. So we find out that Chloe and Mark is not Chloe's biological father. We find out that Mark came into Chloe's life when she was 2 or 3 years old and has been her father ever since. But since the divorce, he hasn't really been interested or invested in seeing how she's doing. And which is so messed up because at the end of the day, it's not like you met her when she was 15 years old. You met her at 2 years old and you just discarded her. And you can tell that it bothers her because she was like, he wants them, not me. And I don't want him to her reaction was so flippant. And you could tell she's hurt. You're supposed to be her dad. And you're just like, I'm not with your mama no more. I want my kids, not you. And that's hurtful. That's extremely hurtful. I also feel like it's a choice for Kelly to involve her child in this so much. I don't feel like it's right that she is treating Chloe like her friend. And I'm like, a lot of the conversations that you're probably having with her are probably not age appropriate. I'm not saying, and I've told y'all, tell your kids what's happening. But I do think there's a level of where you keep it to yourself. And I do know there were Kelly ends up admitting that Chloe has seen her crying on the bathroom floor. And, she jumped in the action of taking care of her sisters, which I think is wonderful. But I really do hope she does go to therapy because she does need to unpack some things. So as they're sitting there, Kelly's like, I just want the core of us to be great. If I get married or you get married. And Chloe's like, girl, I do not want to get married because I don't want to end up like you. I said, ooh. I said, you gagged when she said, I said, Chloe, dang. But I think it's true. It's hurtful, but it is true. And you could tell that Kelly was about to say something, but she caught herself because maybe it dawned on her that you haven't shown her what a positive marriage is. Now, I'm not one of those ones that are not that's nobody should get married because I do think marriage can be a beautiful thing. I've seen healthy, happy marriages, okay? I don't have rose-colored glasses when it comes to marriages. So I've seen good marriages and I've seen awful ones. So I do feel like marriage can be a beautiful thing, but I think 9 times out of, well, I won't say 9. I'll say 7 times out of 10. It's not great because people are rushing into things without doing the necessary steps to see if this is an option for you, And some people are just wanting to have a wedding and not really want to be with the person. But I can understand Chloe not wanting to get married after seeing all of the turmoil and strife that her mom has been through. Kelly basically alluded to that situation being full of DV and the man stealing from you. Why would she want to marry somebody like that? And that doesn't mean because she gets married, because Kelly was like, no, you deserve love. Yes, she deserves love and she could be with somebody without getting married. Or if she meets somebody and she gets married, it's up to her. But whether you get married or not doesn't mean you don't deserve love. You know what I'm saying? But I do hope that she goes to therapy. I do. Because you can tell that little girl is hurt. That man has pretty much was like, I only care about my 3 kids. biological, not you. Even though you've been in her life since she was 3. That's a funky bastard right there. Horrible man. So the next scene we have is of Drew at home preparing to leave because it is Ralph's week to have the kids. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how much of this scene I believe. And the reason why I say that is it's because both Drew and Ralph give liars. So I'm just like watching this scene. It was interesting to watch her daughter not listen to her. And I was like, Drew just glare at her. Like, you know, you don't have to like beat your kids, but I'm just kind of like, why didn't you just give her like the stare? Like there was always like a look my mom could give me and my sister, and we'd be like, oh, okay, we about to get in trouble. And then we would come to them. She's trying to, you know, do her daughter's hair because I guess it's like Father's Day weekend or something like that. It's because Ralph was like, it's all about me, you know, it's Father's Day, or unless he was just alluding to them spending time as Father's Day. So she's doing her daughter's hair. You see her older sister Allison helping her pack because I guess Allison also lives there now since Ralph is like in the basement, and you know she could do what she want with her part of the house. So Allison was like, oh, do I need to pack a bathing suit? And she was like, yeah, pack a swimsuit. Okay. And so we see, I think her oldest son, Jojo, he's sitting at the table, and the little girl sits down at the table and they're eating breakfast. Next thing you know, she sees Ralph, and Drew was like, oh. And he was like, oh, it's my time. And she was like, yeah, I'm just eating with them. I'm about to go. And then she pulls him to the side and was like, I need you to call this exterminator. And he was like, well, why don't you call them? And she was like, well, I talked to my attorney and they said that's something you can do. And then Ralph was like, why can't you do it? It's like $100. I pay for everything else. She was like, well, this is one thing off my plate. And he was like, what else do you have on your plate? It's still crazy that they give Ralph a confessional. Like, why does Ralph need a confessional? So Ralph is in the confessional saying that he pays for everything. And to me, this is where I'm like, I don't know how much of this I believe. Because on one hand, Ralph's an asshole. So I can see him coming upstairs just to irritate her. But also he was like, it's time. So it's like, Drew, you know how we do this. But then on the other hand, I can see Drew being like, well, any other time you stayed into the basement until I left and the kids went down to get you and I'm trying to have breakfast with them. So it's like, was he playing with her? Is Drew playing with us? And then the argument that they had back and forth about the exterminator, I understood where Ralph was coming from and I got where she was coming from. Well, my attorney told me that's something you need to fix, so you need to do it. But I can also see his point of view of like, girl, I pay the bills in this house. I pay the car note, everything else. Why can't you just pay $100 for an exterminator? And what kind of bugs y'all got? Is it roaches, water bugs, ants? You know, silver dollars, like what's going on here? I don't know. So then Drew didn't even want to continue having the conversation. She just left after Ralph was like, what you got on your plate? And then she's in the car with her sister complaining, talking about how mad she was. And I think it's like crazy how jarring we went from, it's jarring to me because that one episode, they cool. They're talking about they in a good place or somewhat a good place as Ralph is playing football drills with his son and his daughter to now y'all arguing about an exterminator. I don't know what's real or fake with them two. So I don't care that much. So then we move over to Shamia being in the studio with RL and this other guy, another producer. Angela pulls up and she's excited. She's like, I really can't believe you're working with RL. She then goes on to talk about how she felt bad for Shamia when Portia was acting like she didn't know that was Shamia's song. Shamia says that she was actually hurt by Portia's actions. Mind you, I didn't talk about Drew's confessional. I like this confessional on Drew because it's way better than that sequin bullshit she got on. But I will say, I don't know what's up with her and what's her name? What is her name? Britt. When your titties are like up to your throat, I'm like, are y'all not getting fitted for these like bustiers? You know, like, and I like Drew's hair in this like this confessional and everything, but I'm just like, your titties is sitting in like in your neck, like okay, so. We see them in the studio. Shamia get to singing in her confessional. You never had. Okay, I said, okay. She also talks about how she's really close with RL and his wife. I saw online that people have been saying that RL and his wife have been trying to get on Real Housewives of Atlanta for like years. So maybe this might be a segue for them. Who knows? We might see it. But it would be kind of cute because, we had Shamari, who I wish would come back because I thought she deserved at least a second season, but her husband wasn't okay with it. But I wonder if they will play that role if we end up getting him and his wife. But she's in the studio. That's when Shamia lets it be known that she was hurt by Portia. And she said Portia apologized to her because Shamia brought it up to her. And she was like, no, legit, I didn't think that was your voice. And I'm sorry. I was like, Portia likes to feign, like, oh my God, I didn't mean it that way. The same way she did with Angela. When you know what you're doing, you're not stupid. So Drew finally gets there. And Shamia being shady, talking about, no offense to Drew, but she can't hit the high notes that I hit in her confessional. She also tells Drew this is the type of producer she need to get. Well, she said this in her confession. This is the type of producer you need to get with, not Dennis. But I will give Dennis and Drew credit. They used this show the way that they were supposed to. She put out a whole entire album. You just have a single floating around. It's a cute single, but you better hope the warm reception that Drew got, you get that and more. Because what you got to show for it right now, Shamia, other than a single? She put out several singles and an album. Where is yours at, okay? So Shamia's still talking about how Portia hurt her feelings and how, like, I've been doing music since I was in, elementary school. I sang on the choir. Drew says she can relate to Shamia because she's like, your music is your baby and someone disrespects it. It's a lot. She ends up saying that, I was in a group with Carrie Hilson. She also says how, RL and the other producer helped her gain her confidence back. She's been trying to do this music thing for a long time. So then Drew was like, see, and that's why I'm with Dennis. He helped me at the same. And he was like, honestly, like, what we're doing, the residuals could pay for PJ's college. And Shamia said, girl, what? And then she said in her confession, see, you doing too much. And she was like, I think PJ's college is already paid for. I know that for a fact. So she was just like, yeah, girl. And I do think Drew knows what she's doing, just like Portia knows what she's doing. Drew knows how to play it up for the camera and cause chaos and confusion. Because there was no need for her to keep harping on, like, the residuals is going to pay for PJ's college when, like, the album's cute, but it's not going triple platinum or diamond no time soon. So the next thing we have is of Shamia and Portia. They go to this, like, cool mini golf place. I want to see if I have one in my city because it looked like a lot of fun. I don't know what Portia had on because I said, girl, the way she was jumping, I was waiting for the flaps of her outfit to flash up and us just see titties. Because I said, girl, why did you wear this to go play mini golf? And Shamia's wasn't any better, like just titties, just cleavage all out there, girl. So they sit down to eat. We find out that Shamia doesn't want to talk to Portia about her still being hurt by Portia acting like she didn't know that was her voice. She also said in her confessional when she was with Drew and Angela that she's still hurt by Portia, and in her confessional when during that scene she said that she's a people pleaser. I did think it was weird that she was talking to Angela and Drew about this. Portia's not cool with Drew, and her and Angela got a weird relationship, but hey, honestly, I think at this point Shamia knows she's a people pleaser. Fix it. You make enough money to go get therapy. You're a mother, a wife, like you got jobs. Do what you need to do. Honestly, I feel like that's the reason why Shamia hasn't popped off the way she has, is because even though she seems like a really nice person, she also seems scary in the sense of like, she's corny to me, but there's also like fear behind it, because I feel like people pleasing is like a fear response to things because you're afraid of how people will perceive you. But we've also seen Shamia be mean to people too. So I've like, it's in there, but it's hard for me to give Shamia so much sympathy when Shamia upholds Portia and her shenanigans. I still remember that picture of Shamia, Fallon, and Portia, and then Shamia acting like, oh, they weren't together. She was down at the jewelry store. What is it giving, Portia? It's giving taken. It's giving look away. Your husband, Shamia, said that she shouldn't marry Simon. Like, you uphold that girl and her shenanigans. That's a friend that you don't keep around. Like, what do you mean? Also, Portia and Shamia's relationship is a clear example of when a friendship has gone past its expiration date, because I truly believe that Portia and Shamia are only holding on to each other because there's history. But I also feel like people who are people pleasers somewhat are very dishonest, because you're not telling people how you feel, but then you're mad at them because they're treating you a certain way, but yet you haven't told them you don't like the way that they treat you. That's passive aggressive AF to me. Tell the person how you feel, okay? Tell Portia she hurt your feelings and move on from it, whether she mad at you or not. What's she gonna do? You on this show now, she can't get rid of you. I get being, a people pleaser as a friend of, but you a full-time housewife, girl. And you connected to everybody. You supposed to be the glue. So we find out that Kelly called Angela Charles, which I think is fun. Not Charles. She called him Netta because, Angela always saying Charles this, Charles that. I wonder what happened to them. Like, it's crazy how internet fame works. You could be talked about for like a good year and then people forget about you. Like, wow. Your 15 minutes of fame be up like that. They are laughing at Angela possibly being perimenopausal, which Angela do give that. That's probably who she was calling bird brains, is Shamia and Portia and Kelly. Portia reiterates that she was just playing. She didn't think she was going to take it that far or be up in her feelings that way. While they're sitting there, they talk about Dennis and Drew and how Portia basically like, I'm really protective over my co-parenting relationship. Now you're protective about it, but you didn't care when you was with Simon. So now that you don't got Simon, now it's all about, I want to protect my co-parenting relationship. Girl, go on somewhere. It was funny because Dennis lied to Portia and said that he wasn't going to film with Drew only for after they had that conversation. It happened 3 weeks ago when they were down at that children's place with all the toys and Pilar was running around, that he went and had that scene with Drew in the studio talking about, Drew, you got to do this for the studio, for the album. And I said, well, if he don't care what you say. He going to do what he want, as he should, because you're not his woman. Okay? So we find out that Portia got embryos. That's how you know she money hungry, because there's no way you wanted to have a baby with that, with Simon. Oh my God, girl, you made embryos with a man that you only knew for like 2 years at the most. You psychotic, Portia. You really thought that man had, this is how you know she did not vet him, because there's no way I would be making embryos with a scammer or a man that she wanted to have a baby so she had access to that $80 million, because I bet you she was only going to be married to him for 5 years and then give it up. Oh my gosh, there's an embryo of Simon and Portia. Jesus. So moving on from that, we have this scene with Kelly and her stylist, Paris. He's helping her get her peace brunch together. When the girls were at Shamia's house, Kelly was like, I want to invite all of you guys to a peace brunch. I want to bring my waffles and other things so we can have a good time. And everyone agreed to come. Britt's supposed to be like the guest of honor, And so Paris is helping Kelly. What's interesting is that Paris and Kelly aren't friends anymore, but Paris is still friends with Britt. And I wonder if Paris is the reason why they fell out, or did something else happen? Because at Watch What Happens Live, he was sitting in the audience. He's the one that styled Britt for her new confessional in the oversized leather jacket, which I think is definitely a step up from the jean, like bustier thing she had on. As well as the outfit that she had on Watch What Happens Live, he styled that for her. Paris, that wasn't one of your best outfits, because you definitely needed to switch it up, because she was giving roadkill. Like, I thought the shoes were cute and the skirt was cute, but they needed to have a different top. Like, you needed to break all of that up because it was giving fur rug. But yeah, they're not cool anymore. So he's there helping her set up. We basically see Angela before Angela and Shamia gets there, Portia calls. You could clearly hear in her voice that she's sick. Pilar got her sick, and she was like, I'm not going to be able to come. Kelly throws shade. She was like, if you need anything, let me know, as long as you're not trying to take somebody's man. And she was like, really? And they start giggling back and forth. They shading each other. Then we see Angela and Shamia get there. They sit down and they have a conversation. Paris walking around with a fan just like Angela, because Angela was like, oh my God, did you get me a fan? She said, no, girl. That's Paris's fan. So she sits down, they sit down, they start talking. It was an awkward transition when Kelly basically says that, her husband just got out of jail for not paying $10,000 in child support. He's only made one payment. And she's like, she's just been going through a lot. She also admits that she hasn't been very open about what she's been going through with her husband for the past 2 years with this divorce. So it was nice for her to open up to these ladies. Kelly also debuted a new confessional, and I actually like this one way more than the red outfit. She got the Betty Boop swirl in the middle of her forehead, and the color is really cute on her. So they're sitting there, and then Drew comes. I did not like Drew's dress. Honestly, the only person's outfit that I actually liked was Angela's. But I also felt like Angela's needed to be a different colors. Shamia's, Drew's the dress was cute, but it seemed like it was too tight on her, and I don't know where Britt thought she was going. When I tell you them titties was out, I was like, this is giving beach wear. Like we going to resort somewhere. This is supposed to be like a garden party. Where you going? I realized that I skipped over Britt and her mom. So Britt's mom comes over to her house so that they can have a conversation. Mind you, Britt said that they're renovating the place. Didn't she say in like episode 3 that they were planning on moving? So why would you be renovating a rental? So she shows her mom her office. It's giving very much this is an Airbnb and not their actual home. Because I was like, that office doesn't even look like lived in. You don't really got no boxes in there. I don't see like papers. Even if you're like, doing up your office, you still have, it's still kind of like disheveled. So I was just like, I don't know. She gets emotional with her mom. They go down to the basement to have a conversation, and she tells her mom that like she had to tell her about like, the situation with her in Kenya. She was like, nobody wants to speak to their mom about, fellatio and all of that stuff. She lets it be known that her sister Tara reached out to her. So I think Tara is the oldest, then Cher, then Britt, because she said that Cher was her older sister, which is interesting because Tara in them pictures look way younger than Britt. That's why you don't mess with your face, because I was like, why does your older sister look younger than you? But Tara and Britt stopped talking to each other because Britt don't know how to talk to people when they were doing the whole insurance business. So she pretty much reached out to her sister after she found out what happened, and she was like, I got you. So the mom was like, that's wonderful that she talked to you and all of that stuff. I'm glad that y'all are communicating with each other. So then Britt starts crying about the whole entire situation, and she's just like, I can't believe she did this. She was trying to humiliate me. And then the mom didn't even look interested. And then it felt like eventually she got into it where she was just like, she's Miss USA. She should be uplifting you. What's interesting is Britt trying to act like her mom don't know what she about. You were about to be in a TV show called Penthouse Pets with Stevie J back in 2017. I'm pretty sure your mom knows your lifestyle, as well as you were dating Rick Ross. Oh, shouts out to the people on Reddit. This one commenter said that she dated Rick Ross, Young Bird, and B.O.B. So, like, the people know about you, girl. Your mama know who you are. And let's talk about her being a video vixen, because you know what? I did the math, all right? So I looked up Britt's age. Britt was born in October the 8th, 1987. So another Reddit user said that they went to high school with her. So, this could be a rumor. But they said that Britt was in the Gucci Mane and Jeezy So Icy video. She also was in I'm in Love with a Stripper, and she was in Oh by Sierra. So I looked up all of those things. The O came out in 2004. She was 17. Okay, I looked up Gucci Mane and T-Pain's video. That came out in April of 2005, and so did T-Pain's I'm in Love with a Stripper. She was 18 years old in 2005. Then she was also in Soulja Boy's Kiss Me Through the Phone, 2008. She was 21. Maxwell's Pretty Wings and Music Soul Child So Beautiful came out in 2009, so she was 22. And then when Ming Lee brought up that she, what's it called? That they knew each other back in 2011 at some party, she was 24. And then she was also in Lottery Ticket, which came out in 2010, so she was 23. And then I was like, okay, so you said you did cam stuff and your boyfriend did a video of you. I said, okay, what was the most high-tech phone during that time? And it was a Motorola Razr V3. So I'm like, did you do this on a phone or with a camera? And if so, girl, I doubt you still have that camera, or that man still has that camera. And if your mom knew you were a video vixen, your words, not ours, did she know how you get down? She know how you get down. This is why I don't like you playing. She playing. This lady is playing with us. When she started crying, I was like, you're crying acting like your mama don't know you. Like your family doesn't know you. See, shenanery. All right, y'all. So Britt gets there and she sits down. Kelly gives a speech about how she's like, thank y'all all for coming. She lets them know that Portia's sick, but she was like, this is supposed to be a place for Britt to come to feel love on and know that she has a sisterhood. So she's like, I've spoken to you and the other ladies have spoken to Kenya and know how she feels. And so maybe you can speak to them about how you feel. Britt immediately gets an attitude. So she was like, oh, they've spoken to Kenya? And like, what? And so then in the confessional, she's like, this is why I have a wall here, because these women don't have my back. Do you not understand that y'all have only been filming for a month now? The situation, maybe a month in a week. The situation that happened between you and Kenya happened 3 weeks into filming. Then what happened at Kenya's salon, 4 weeks into filming. Then y'all took 2 days off, so it's probably been almost 5 weeks. Them girls don't know you. Drew and Shamia have known Kenya for years. Angela and Kelly, that's different. They're just like you. So expecting Drew and Shamia not to check on Kenya is weird to me. It's weird. So she got an attitude. She was like, why would you care about how she feels? And they're like, well, we just wanted to make sure she was okay. So then Shamia, I guess, can tell that Britt is getting in her feelings. So she was like, well, you know, Britt, I talked to you and you told me that you lost your license. So then you hear Angela say, well, how did that happen? And immediately Britt gets an attitude. She was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And Angela's like, well, how did you lose your license? Like, why did they take it away from you? Like, she was like, do you not know what Kenya did to me? Do you not know what Kenya did to me? And Angela's like, okay, you coming in real hot right now. And I'm just asking you a simple question. And Britt is like, you know, what'd she say? She said something to the effect of, like, are you slow? Are you slow right now? Read the room. Read the room. And Angela ends up saying, like, well, girl, you're coming in hot. You like to hide your hands because we're not going to act like that situation that happened between you and Kenya wasn't on, like, both parts, because you're getting just as angry with me like you did with her. So then she's like, read the room. Read the room. Read the mother effing room. When I tell you she sounds like Cartman from South Park,
on the cold and gray Chicago moon, another little baby child is born in the ghetto, in the ghetto.
I was like, oh my gosh, she sounds like Cartman when he's singing. And I don't even watch South Park, but I know the character because I have a friend that loves the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, she sounds like, read the rhyme, read the rhyme, read the motherfucking rhyme. I said, girl, calm. She got that snarl the same way she was snarling at Kenya. I said, girl, you go from 0 to 100 so quickly, and it's so off-putting. Anytime somebody pushes back from you, this the energy you gonna give them? So then you got Drew and everybody else being like, whoa. Even Kelly was like, oh my God, like what's happening? So then Kelly ends up asking Angela, can you come sit on my side? And then Shamia, I thought Shamia was going to ask her a different question and change the vibe, but she didn't. Shamia was like, well, why don't I ask? So Britt, how did you lose your license? So she was like, well, I haven't lost my license yet. So you lied. You lied. You told Shamia you lost your license, but now you haven't lost your license yet. You're under investigation. So then you hear Angela say, I thought so. So she was like, what did you say? She said, and Angela said, I thought so. She was like, are you serious right now? She was like, yeah, I thought you was done. She was like, well, I'm not. I said, girl, she was like, do you want to twirl on up out of here? I said, and you still using Kenya's phrases? Girl. So then Britt gets a whole attitude. And so then Drew laughs at her saying, you want to twirl up on out of there. And I guess Britt thought Drew was laughing at her because she has such a stank look on her face. Like she was like, oh, so it's funny. It's funny. It's funny. And so then Drew was like, whoa, girl, calm down. So she ends up saying, she was like, look, I think both of y'all are wrong. Maybe y'all could get to a place where y'all could talk it out. She was like, well, I've already admitted that I was wrong. I already admitted that. And Drew was like, okay. She was like, I hope that whatever is transpiring in your life gets better. I hope your career gets better. But I'm going to just leave it at that. So then church bells go off. Shamia's talking about she brokered peace between the group. And I was like, not really. You really didn't, but okay. And so she said, you know, that's when church bells rings, that means something. So she was like, can we all commit to not judging each other and being open to moving forward? And so they all agree. And then they started doing the electric slide like this is the end of Medea family reunion. I said, girl, what is this? But I will say, even though Cynthia wasn't there, nor Kenya or Portia, the newbies, in conjunction with Shamia and Drew, held this scene down. So, and I feel like it's all because of Angela, because Angela was not afraid of Britt. And I said, do that, Angela. And Angela clocked Britt, okay? Because Angela let it be known that she is I think she said a mortgage loan originator. And she basically said, they're not going to take your license because of a rumor or because you got accosted by somebody. It's something else. Now, I have been saying like they found about you, and I'm probably gonna have to do a separate video because this video is long enough. It's already an hour and like 17 minutes, which I didn't think it was gonna be that long. But pretty much they found out that her license, allegedly, she ain't had an insurance license since 2022. So nothing that happened with you in Kenya did this. Plus, I even went on her website, girl. It's giving scam. When I looked at the clause and it said that you can't get a refund, you can pay for a master class. You pay $495, or you can buy her ebook for $150, but you don't get any type of refund if you don't feel like the services were given to you were proper. So that's off rip is a scam, because why are you not giving people their money back? And I've been hearing that allegedly that people have bought her stuff and asked for a refund, or they bought it and she didn't provide them with anything, and fraudulentity over there. It is giving that. But that's all I got for you guys. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in them comments below and subscribe and like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.